Since the release of The Avengers back in 2012, Marvel ruled the superhero genre with the biggest blockbusters, the most talked about movies, some of the best TV shows, the top-selling comics, the most loved characters, and a ton of merch. It felt like no one else had a shot in the genre, until the DC Universe came back strong in 2025 and beat Marvel in every single area, except for video games. In 2025, DC and Marvel went head-to-head in 4 direct matchups, and DC came out on top in all of them by a pretty big margin. The first battle happened in animation, with Creature Commandos going up against the final season of What If. Both shows dropped at the same time, and What If had everything going for it. Higher stakes, characters we already knew and liked, and a multiverse storyline that could have been a crazy wild ride. Meanwhile, Creature Commandos was a show no one cared about, since it starred a bunch of bottom-of-the-barrel comic book characters. But James Gunn's script made us connect with a group of misfits who believed they didn't deserve to live. Sure, Gunn reused the same formula from Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, but you can't deny the episodes hit hard emotionally. Plus, Frankenstein is funny even though he's a killer, and Weasel deserves a hug even if he's horrifying to look at. Creature Commandos also had better world building than any Marvel show in 2025. It showed us that magic exists, introduced one of Wonder Woman's enemies, and made it clear that metahumans have been around for a while. For such a niche show with barely any promotion, it ended up doing really well. According to Luminate data, it was the 3rd most watched show during its first full week on HBO Max, and it even hit the number 2 spot on the platform's list of top streamed shows. Parrot Analytics also said the show's audience demand was 18.7 times higher than the average TV series in the US, putting it in the top 2.7% of all shows in the market. It did so well, they immediately confirmed a 2nd season. That success looked even bigger next to the total flop of What If. But knowing how that pitch meeting went down, I'm not surprised. Alright guys, any ideas for the final season of What If? It has to be epic, emotional, and show off the multiverse. Our data shows audiences connect more with intimate, relatable narratives. What about Howard the Duck and Darcy having a baby? Everyone will love it. What else? Agatha's numbers are through the roof. Let's do a whole musical episode with her and Kingo. Blown away. Anything else? Let's give Captain Carter multiversal powers. Isn't she overpowered already and the star of the show? Not overpowered at all, sir. This time she tears through time and space with the power of love and defeats the entire Council of Watchers. This is gonna be a hit. Sir, we could explore what if the other Avengers survived the snap. Nope, too complicated. Not only does the story and character development in What If feel like a joke compared to Creature Commandos, but Creature Commandos also has way better animation. While What If was stiffer than Season 3 of One Punch Man, Creature Commandos was animated by Bobby Pills, a studio known for producing well-animated, horny furry stuff. Not that I watched that stuff or anything. Just a few days after What If's disaster of a finale, Marvel dropped My Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, a show that got even less promotion than Creature Commandos. But to everyone's surprise, including mine, it was pretty good. But here's the thing, Marvel made the dumb move of releasing all the episodes in a single week. Like they were just trying to get it over with because they figured nobody would care. The few people who did watch it actually enjoyed it, and maybe Season 2 will end up being a big hit. But a lot of folks didn't even know this thing came out. Same thing happened with Eyes of Wakanda, another Marvel animated show that no one watched, and that doesn't have much going for it besides a quick Iron Fist cameo. But to be fair, the real king of animation in 2025 was Prime Video with Season 3 of Invincible, which crushed it in every possible way. But this video is all about Marvel and DC, and in that two-player game, game, DC totally crushed Marvel in animation. The second battle happened in the world of comics, a space Marvel had been dominating since the 70s. DC has its classics like Batman Year One, Watchmen, and The Killing Joke, which always sell well and are considered some of the best comics of all time. But when it came to month-to-month sales, Marvel always came out on top, especially with the new titles, mostly because Spider-Man fans keep buying his comics despite the emotional damage. But that changed in 2025 thanks to the Compact Comics line and the Absolute Universe. Compact Comics are manga-sized, cheap editions aimed at the bookstore crowd and younger readers who usually go for manga over American comics. This line includes must-read classics that work great as entry points, like The Long Halloween, Red Son, or Superman Birthright. But they also feature amazing stories for more experienced readers, like All-Star Superman, Kingdom Come, or The Dark Knight Returns. This format was perfect for fans who like superheroes but run for the hills when they see the prices, which have gotten pretty high and mostly target collectors now. By December 2025, 2 compact editions made it into the top 10 best-selling comics, stealing a spot that's usually all Marvel. Then there's the Absolute Universe, an alternate continuity that also works as a perfect entry point for new readers. This line went head-to-head with the relaunch of Marvel's Ultimate Universe, another alternate world with super talented creative teams that quickly became the best thing Marvel had going. What's cool is that all the comics in both lines are great and bring something fresh and wild, like the X-Men drawn in manga style, or Reed Richards turning into Doctor Doom and joining the Ultimates, who are basically this universe's Avengers. Of course, the highlight of the new Ultimate Universe was Spider-Man being married with kids, something fans have been begging for forever, but Marvel kept dodging in the main timeline. But the Absolute Universe is on a different level. Every book here is some of the best stuff that's been done with these characters in the last 20 years. That's wild, considering a lot of the ideas sound kinda ridiculous, like a shy Superman who talks to his cape, or a version of Bruce Wayne with a regular job fighting off villains who've turned into monsters. But it's really nice and good. I'd even say some of these titles are the best stories ever made for certain characters, like Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter. That's something I can't say about the Ultimate Universe, even though I liked those books too. 10 years from now, we're gonna look back and be shocked that DC dropped so many generational ongoing series all at once. Absolute! And you don't have to take my word for it. The numbers give the win to DC. By the end of 2025, the Absolute line had sold over 8.5 million units. The main title, Absolute Batman, sold nearly 3 million copies, making it the best-selling regular series or character comic in the US. This book broke all the rules of comic sales. While most comics take a nosedive after issue 1, Absolute Batman went up. Issue 15, which came out in December 2025, had over 300,000 copies ordered. That beat Marvel's super hyped Ultimate Endgame issue 1, which was the first big event in the new Ultimate Universe, and even shared its name with the highest grossing superhero movie of all time. And that was just the beginning. In November 2025, DC was crushing it so hard, they had 9 of the top 10 best-selling comics, and in December, they held 18 out of the top 20 spots in graphic novel sales, with Marvel hanging on to just 1 title in that top 20. Plus, out of the 5 best-selling comics of 2025, 3 were from DC, and the other 2 were DC-Marvel crossovers. I see this as an absolute win. Dude, could you stop that? Wow, you're an absolute Boy Scout in every universe. The third battle was in live-action TV shows, with Peacemaker going up against Daredevil Born Again and Ironheart. Here, Marvel also seemed like the obvious winner, since Netflix's Daredevil was seen by many as the best superhero show ever, and fans were hyped for the revival. But even though the show delivered some solid moments, a great Daredevil suit, and a pretty awesome final 2 episodes, it never quite reached the level of the original. You could tell there were reshoots all over the place, since the first version was super boring and Matt Murdock barely wore the suit. On top of that, the whole season was overshadowed from start to finish by Invincible Season 3, so people barely talked about Daredevil. That showed in the ratings, as it became the first MCU series to miss Nielsen's top 10, which tracks the most watched shows in the US. Peacemaker, on the other hand, did make it into the top 10 with the season finale. That was a big deal for DC shows on HBO Max, since none of them have pulled that off before. And no, I don't think season 2 was as good as the first. It had way less action, Chris barely wore the suit, and we didn't get to see him use any of his helmets. Plus, the ending was weird. It gave closure to Chris and Harcourt's relationship, which was the real heart of the season, but it felt like a really long epilogue that didn't even end, because the last scene is Peacemaker getting trapped in another dimension by Rick Flag. It worked more as a prologue for Man of Tomorrow and the future of the DCU than a proper conclusion for the show itself, so most fans found it at least kinda disappointing, but still, it had way more cultural impact than Born Again, and if you look at the season as a whole, it was the better show. It had stronger performances, better character development, and the mystery around where Peacemaker ended up was super well done. Finding out he was in a world where the evil German guys won was easily one of the best superhero moments of 2025. Oh, and Ironheart flopped under its own weight. It was a show about a character nobody cared about and no one watched it, even though they threw Mephisto in there. So DC took the win here. The final battle went down at the movies, with Superman going head-to-head with Fantastic Four in the same month. Both were fresh takes on classic characters who hadn't gotten the live-action treatment they deserved in a long time, and both had themes of hope and optimism, something superhero movies had been missing for a while. They focused on family, showed the more human side of superheroes, and we saw them saving people instead of just aura farming like some other guys. When it comes to quality, this was the closest matchup. They were the most highly rated movies these characters have had, praised by fans, critics, and casual viewers alike. First Steps redeemed Galactus, gave us an amazing Sue Storm, and the chase scene halfway through the movie is easily peak MCU. Superman, on the other hand, gave us the best live-action version of the Man of Steel, the best Lois Lane, and the best Lex Luthor we've seen in any movie. If I had to pick one, I'd go with Superman, cause it's more emotional and feels way more like a comic. But for the fourth time, what I think doesn't matter. Or does it? No, it doesn't! Shh, I was never here. The numbers speak for themselves. Superman made $100 million more than First Steps at the box office, becoming the highest grossing superhero movie of 2025. It was the first time DC beat Marvel in a direct box office showdown since 2012, and it completely dominated Fantastic Four in online buzz too. Everyone jumped on the slogan, "Kindness is the new punk rock." Gunn's movie did so well that Warner approved a sequel just 2 months after it came out, something we hadn't seen since Fox greenlit Deadpool 2 just days after the first movie dropped. Meanwhile, Fantastic Four fans will have to settle for seeing the team again in Avengers Doomsday, with no sequel in sight. And Superman also crushed it on digital. In its first 3 days, it hit 527,000 households, making it the most successful digital release of 2025. In just 10 days, it had 13 million viewers. Compare that to First Steps, which had 4.9 million viewers in its first 5 days. The lowest debut for any MCU movie on Disney+, even lower than the Marvels. If you ask me, First Steps deserved way more love, but there is no doubt that summer 2025 belonged to Superman. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but DC dominated Marvel all year long, except in those terrible mobile games. But this could change in 2026, because Marvel could take back the superhero crown. I explain how in this video. Damn, I didn't say anything about Sandman.